Hey, Sunitha, it's so nice to have you on the Aligned Intelligence. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And I'm super excited to be here today.
So, Sunitha, tell me more about yourself. I'd love to get to know you more and about your background and where you studied and your journey, like coming to the States and things like that.
Okay, sure. So I did my engineering in computer science. From there, I started my career as an engineer at Microsoft, and I worked there in a few different roles and eventually moved into program management. And following that, I've worked at multiple different startups in the Bay Area, similar roles. And I'm right now working as the head of technical program management at this company called TextNow. Yeah,
Nice.
that's where we are today.
Nice. So, what does TextNow do?
Yeah, sure. So one of the reasons I'm super excited to be working at this company is, over the years, I've really started caring about the kind of impact that the work that I do bring. And Text Now is the idea behind the company is to democratize phone service, so making it super easy for everyone. And you know that often, the bills are super high. People who are between jobs, people who are not able to afford it. It's really hard for them to stay connected. And TextNow offers that option where you can actually call and text using an app. You also have the option to get a SIM and it's supported by ads and it's free or it's super cheap. And that, really resonates with the idea of make sure that communication is available to everyone. And I think it's beautiful that we're doing that.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, I can imagine phone bills being expensive because I pay myself like $200 per month. So if TextNow is doing that, I mean, that would be awesome. And that's a very good use case that you and your team is tackling. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Nice. When you look back, what did your younger you think success would look like? And how has that definition evolved over time for you?
Yeah, sure. So when I was younger, I was very much on, hey, success means how much money you make, how much are you earning, what's your title, how many people you have reporting to you. That was my idea of what success would look like. And I think over the years, that's changed a lot. So for me, success right now is the luxury of balance, being able to do a job that I love doing, surrounding myself with people who inspire me every day, but at the same time also being able to spend time with my family and not having to compromise on that, taking the time to invest in myself professionally and from a personal front, and also being able to grow other people around me. So to me, that definition has changed a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine because I guess like when you're younger, especially when I was younger too, I'd always like look into the titles or what positions that we're holding and how much impact are we trying. I mean, of course, impact is very important, but at the end, it's also like life. Just like, if you have the availability of balancing life with your job and your career. I think that's like very important as well. Was there a moment in your journey where you had to trust yourself first before anyone else? And what did that look like?
That's interesting. I feel like, again, early on in my career, it didn't come naturally to me. So it took a while to get to that point. There was one point where, and now the situation's changed, but also as women in tech, a lot of times we find that, especially within engineering, there are not too many of us. So there's been a time when I was working as a program manager in this meeting. We're talking about building this app. I'm the youngest in the room. I'm also the only woman in the room. And I'm not the product manager, but I am one of the only person in the room who is a target audience for that app, right? And I have all of these
Hmm.
ideas that are coming up, and I'm like, no, this is not my job. But also, I remember thinking about it. I'm like, hey, if I don't speak up right now, we are all going to regret it later. So I did find the courage to say, thinking about it, I'm the only person in this room who is the actual target audience. I know this is not my job, but these are the different areas within the product where I think we can add value. And eventually, it did really help us move the direction of the product. And I was very proud that I decided to speak up. And I think of it as clarity versus just being loud.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's so many instances, especially when you're so early in your career, where you're not really sure if you're saying the right thing or if it's appropriate for example, a program manager to create ideas for a certain product because that's usually the product managers, as you mentioned. But yeah, I think that's a very important thing to like, voice up here that it's very super important to always feel, I guess, empowered to talk about your opinions when you're in a meeting room because you're there for a reason. So
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Cool. Now I guess like, you've been growing into this whole management path in terms of program management. How would you describe your leadership style in one sentence? How did you grow into it?
One sentence, okay? It's, the
Or you
one
can
thing.
use like two or three or more.
So for me, I think it's really important that I give my team a safe space where they're able to express themselves freely and they feel like they can challenge me even when I'm wrong or if they think I'm wrong, right? And that's what really defines success as a leader, where your team is able to challenge you as well. But at the same time, being able to agree to disagree. So for me, from a leadership point of view, that's really important. And when I'm thinking about hiring strategies, I've always consciously made the decision to hire people who are diverse. And by diverse, I don't just mean your gender or your skin color, right? I'm talking about diversity in thought, in ideology, in skill set. I think it's really important to have a diverse team. I've had challenges because of that, frankly, because there have been times when, oh my gosh, you put two people with different ideologies in a room, it's going to take forever to get to consensus, right? But after that initial storming phase, you really start seeing the benefits of it. And you just have so many different perspectives you've thought through before you come to a conclusion. I think that's amazing to be able to have a team like that.
What sort of ideologies do you think would probably conflict between team members? Is it just the way that they think, how they approach a certain problem, things like that?
Yeah, sure. So even for simple things like when it comes to program management, what we as TPMs should be doing is so different in how people think or perceive, right? Where some people think, oh, it has to be very technical, versus some people think, oh, it has to be at a high level, how we are managing tasks. Some people think we should also be doing Scrum Master roles. So how do we bring all of these different people together? How do we talk about how we present information up? For example, what information is relevant? It's just different to all of these people, and their skill set is different. So those are, all of these instances where we hear all of these ideas. And in this context, I think this is what makes sense. And that's my job as a leader to drive them towards.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. So I guess the next question that I had to ask here, Sunita, was, when it comes to being technical for a technical program manager, how technical are leaders usually in the room? How are you like getting into the whole system and architecture that engineers are supposed to develop for certain features? What's the technical depth?
So I think it depends on the company that you're in and, what the system is in that place. So for example, I've had instances where that's been the case in the past at multiple jobs. But in my current job, it's more around alignment and making sure you're thinking about the business aspect of it, the business metrics, and how we're supporting whatever we're working on to deliver on, for example, customer growth or increasing our revenue, right? Thinking about that
Hmm.
aspect. So it's slightly different, and it's different in all companies. But I do personally believe that as a technical program manager, it is critical that you are technical and you have a sound understanding of system design architecture. You're in a room with engineers, you should be aware of what they're talking about. That to me, I think is important in this role.
What values do you anchor on when decisions are messy and there's no obvious right answer?
I do think, for me personally, the value of fairness and respect is really important. I want to make sure that whatever decisions we're making are anchored in fairness and mutual respect. But on top of that, I'm also the kind of person who has a bias for action. So I want to move quickly. So I want to be, even if the larger step is not clear, what are the things that we can do immediately? And if there are multiple things that we can do, maybe pick one, iterate on it. If it fails, it's okay, fail fast and move on to the next one. But being clear about what are the immediate next steps, I think that's something that I always want to strive for.
How do you think AI is changing what good leadership looks like?
I think it is a different world now, right? I mean, everyone's using AI. Information is just available on your fingertips. It's just, we have a lot of information right now. It's cheap and it's readily available. I think what scares is judgment. And that's where a true leader needs to really think about, weighing the pros and cons and taking accountability of the consequences. It's not just about the what, but also the why we are doing it and being able to justify that as a leader. and also thinking about, does this really align with the values? I think that's where the leader's role is more and more important at this point.
Yeah, and I definitely think experience at this point also weighs in because of the amount of experience that probably leaders would have. For example, yourself, you would have that right judgment to make in terms of where to head a program in or which direction it's headed in, especially with the use of AI and things like that. So, do you see like your experience definitely tailoring towards your judgment in terms of what you need to do
Absolutely, for
next?
sure. And, the fact that I've worked at a larger company where things take forever to get done, but also there are different layers involved, whereas working at smaller companies where things need to move super quickly, I think all of that perspective has definitely helped.
Sunitha, so what's your perspective on getting certifications such as the PMP certification, and there's a CSPO and so on and so forth, and then also probably looking into a master's or an MBA? What's your whole perspective on whether people or program managers should actually get these? Is it beneficial for folks who are looking into it?
So I do think it teaches the fundamental concepts. So from that point of view, yes, it's great by all means. But I don't think that the benefit of that, at least for me personally, I don't see that it is in the certification itself. It's in the knowledge that you acquire. And more important than that, to me, is how your experience has taught you these things and what you've learned. Because a lot of times, what the textbook teaches you is great, but it doesn't work 100% in the job that you're doing, right? And it really depends on the company dynamics, the kind of product that you're building, the kind of teams that you're supporting. Being able to use that knowledge, but also tailor it to what works best in that situation, to me, that's much more important than having a certificate. So my advice would be, please, by all means, learn about it, read about it, understand the different principles, the different frameworks, but also think about how you would tailor that for your particular situation. And that's where the real value comes.
Got it. You're leaning more towards having that experience, knowing the knowledge, and really applying that knowledge to the real world scenarios.
That's right. Yeah. Versus the certification in itself.
Okay, awesome. Where do you personally use AI today as a leader, and where do you still prefer human instincts?
So when it comes to AI, I mean, I think of it as a mirror, because I may not have all the answers. I may not think about all the different perspectives. I may have blind spots. So I use AI a lot as a mirror, thinking about the different scenarios. How would different people perceive it? What are some of the counter arguments that a proposal like this could, for example, bring about? What would a skeptical executive think about it, right? So it really helps me to think about all of those different perspectives. I also use it like a multiplier, like every other person, right? I help it summarize things for me, come up with frameworks for me. But what really matters is alignment and execution, and that's where I can focus my energy on. So I do use AI heavily for all the other things. When it comes to, sorry, what was the other question about when we rely on human instincts?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
when you prefer to have like a human touch to what AI is
yeah,
producing.
absolutely. So we can, have all of these ideas churned out, but understanding and reading the room where people are coming from, I think that's still very much something that I rely on human instincts for.
Hmm.
So, for example, if someone says no, I could give me these are probably the scenarios, but a lot of times it's more than technical, right? It's a lot about what is their emotional state today, for example, or how does this align with their values. So thinking about those things, that definitely comes down to human instincts. And also like understanding the team's morale. How can you bring that up? I wouldn't rely on AI for things like that, at least not yet. But who knows in future, maybe.
So, Sunita, I have another question for you here. How do you see AI supporting TPMs specifically, like risk surfacing, dependency tracking, or decision clarity? We probably covered this a little bit earlier, but maybe just to get a level deeper in.
Yeah, sure. I do think it's super useful to have a system that's going to be able to aggregate all the information that we can get from different sources. So, for example, we have all of our code management happening in GitHub and task management happening in Jira or a different system, and then we have a product doing their own product road mapping tools, and then there's always exec communication. So it's all in all of these different places. It'd be nice to have a single source of truth or some kind of a system that you can input all of these into And it's super easy to start thinking about what are the high level risks that are coming up and blind spots, like I mentioned earlier, to us, to the team. There could be some kind of a dependency, maybe with data engineering, for example, that we're not even thinking about at this point, but that the system's able to let us know about. And last minute scope creep that's happening that, we're not really tracking in any of our regular task management systems, but that's able to surface that up for us, right? So I think it'd be super useful to have something like that. There are companies like Linear and even Jira with its Robo agent that's coming up with a lot of these. So I'm very hopeful, and I think we're going in the right direction. It's probably not there yet.
Do you use that actively, like, with your teams today? Like, just to feed all of this information in regarding, like, your programs and then assessing the risks from there?
Yes, yes, and we do build agents all the time, depending on what and situation demands. And we are starting to use Rovo a lot more with Atlassian, but also like even feeding some of this information into ChatGPT and building GPTs that help us. So we are heavily invested in this area.
Wow, that's really good to know. I guess if you could design an AI assistant just for TPM leaders, what problems would you want it to solve?
So that's similar to what I just said, right? Like having multiple sources of information is always a TPM's nightmare. So having all of that consolidated and having a single source of truth and the ability to think outside of, we are obviously prone to human error. So thinking about it outside of that, surfacing those risks, it's just going to make a TPM more aware of the reality before it happens, but it's not necessarily replacing it, a TPM.
Right, exactly. And probably another thing that teams could be looking into is like running stand-ups, for example. Usually a TPM, they're known to just come into the meeting, drive the meeting like a scrum master, collect all of the notes and updates, and then curate weekly updates. So with that, maybe like creating an agent to run the stand-ups.
So we kind of already do that.
Oh,
So
okay. Wow.
yes, yes, very much. So not every day, though. We still have a few days of actual in person, everybody in the meeting running the stand up. But a lot of times we have agents and bots doing that for us too. So it's a combination of the two. The one thing that I would not want to completely assign off to AI is managing risks, because I do think it's important to have, because AI can um, own all of this information sharing, but at the end of it, like I said, we are responsible for the consequences, and it is important to have a directly responsible person for every single risk that we can think of. And that's one area where I would still like to keep things a little more um, manual, so to speak.
Yeah, and having that human intervention of really doing that risk assessment. That's true. Okay. What has leadership taught you about yourself that you didn't expect?
So I, as a person, I've always been like, oh, I need to do my best performance, and that's my job, right? But being a leader is also understanding that I could be doing the best job as a leader, but if there's even one person on my team who's not performing at the level that they should be, that is still my responsibility, and it's a reflection of my performance. So I think that's a shift in thought process that I had to go through. And then part of that is also making sure not just that you're coaching them at the right time and giving them the right feedback, but also understanding that if it's not the right fit, you need to have the difficult conversations. And at the end of the day, it's in the interest of everyone involved. And shifting my mindset to think like that, that's been a big change.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that because once you have a team member under your team, it's up to the leader and the entire team to bring that person up to speed and also get them onto the same page. So it takes a lot of effort from the leader's side as well, along with the other colleague. How do you protect your energy and clarity in a role that constantly pulls you in multiple directions? As a leader, you have several things that you have to keep yourself on top of. So, how do you balance that?
Do I balance that? I am not entirely sure. But the one thing that I would say is building a team that you can trust on. And I definitely don't believe in micromanaging. So I want to give the team the autonomy and trust that they're going to do a great job of it. And I expect some level of reporting, and I will get involved only if I feel like things are going off track, or, if there is a reason that I need to be involved. Otherwise, if I am to get into the weeds for every small thing, there's no way I can maintain my sanity. So understanding that and the ability to let go of control in certain situations is crucial to have that balance, I would say.
Nice. What does alignment look like for you right now between ambition, impact, and your personal life?
So it's very important for me that I spend enough time with my family, but I'm also doing some work that is impactful to me. So as I'm progressing in my career and also like getting older, one of the things that I really want to focus on is how or where I spend my energy. And if it's not something that aligns with my value, if it's not something that I'm by, then knowing that I can let go of it and that's going to be okay. So that's, it's been a little bit of a process, but yeah.
So, for the closing reflections, what advice would you give to someone stepping into leadership for the first time in an AI driven world?
I think it is a great time to be a leader with all of these resources that you have at this point, but also remembering to keep that human aspect very much alive and to really focus on building relationships, be it managing up or managing your team or even working with your peers. I think that's crucial. And also trusting the human behind the tool and not just the tool, right? By all means, use AI, rely on AI. But when your team comes up with something, not just review the work that they've done, but also think about or ask them questions about the thinking to make sure that's in alignment. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really good. What's one lesson you're still learning and probably always will be learning?
I kind of touched on this briefly, but it's about balancing speed of execution with really deep thought process. So sometimes I just want to jump in, I want to move things quickly, but you need to really slow down to be fast sometimes, right? Like you have to think about what's the right solution and also bringing people along with you. It's not just about, oh, I finished this and I've come first, but it's like bringing everyone along with you and making sure there's buy-in and this is the right approach. And sometimes that's not the fastest solution. And I constantly have to tell myself that it's just not about rushing into the solution, but really trying to understand the problem first and bringing other people along with you.
All right, rapid fire round. What do you like to do during your free time just to decompress from work and family as well, just for
So does
yourself?
that include spending time with family?
No, no, spending time with family, something
Okay,
that you
outside of
do,
that.
yeah, for yourself.
So this is very weird, but I love doing puzzles and it can be jigsaw puzzles. It can be Sudoku, crossword puzzles. So it just really helps me decompress. I love doing that. I also like sketching and coloring on the side. Um, and I love spending time with friends. I make it a point to spend time with friends at least once a week outside of work and family. And that's really important to me. Of late, I've also started meditating. So I do, even if it's 10 minutes a day, I do feel like it really helps me bring my focus back, and especially in our roles. There's just so much that's happening in a day that it's hard to keep our attention and focus. So that's something that I've started enjoying as well.
Nice. For some reason, I could never get a hold of meditating because it's just so hard to sit still for 10 to 15 minutes and just like control the thoughts that are running in your mind.
Over time, my ability to focus has increased. But in the beginning, it was like the monkey mind that goes to all of these different places and doesn't really focus on what it's supposed to do, just breath work or even just guided meditations. But it's helping.
One leadership habit you swear by.
So it might sound like a cliche, but I do think investing in relationships and building that trust even before you actually need it. So continuing to have those one-on-one conversations, making sure you're getting to know the person as a person before the employee. I think those are habits that every leader should develop. Because
A moment that made you proud recently.
so we did just recently wrap up our 2026 planning, and it's super hard to get planning right at any company, right? I don't even think there's any company that does it right 100%. But I really like the way my team showed up and constantly learning and iterating on the process to make it better. Where we've come such a long way from where we were last year. And I was really proud to see that. So that's probably the latest thing I can think of.
So, congrats on finishing 2026 planning. I know that's super
Thank you. But also,
challenging.
like, sticking to the plan is equally hard. So this time we've
Exactly.
built in
Yeah.
a lot of flexibility into it as well, which is one of the learnings from last year.
Nice. Cool. One word that defines the season of your life.
I would say it's alignment. Just what I explained earlier, that if, I don't feel strongly about something, if I don't feel like it's aligning with my values, I'm very particular about where I spend my time and energy right now. And if it's not something that's for me, I have to let it go. And that's the one word I would think of, alignment.
Awesome. I love that. And I love that we're talking about this on the aligned intelligence.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Sunitha. I had an awesome time talking with you.
Same. Thank you so much for having me on the show.